Agak kata Prof itu. Good afternoon to panelists, discussants, and all respected participants. My name is Pancha, one of the organizing committee of this webinar. Welcome to the second international webinar on family planning and family development program in Asian countries. And thank you very much for your interest joining with us today. So dear participants, a few information before we start the webinar soon. So allow me to share a screen. So this webinar is organized by BKKBN with the support from Partners in Population Development, Johns Hopkins Center for Communication Program, and Commission on Population Development, POPCON Philippines. And the rules of this webinar is there will be no live discussions, so all participants will be mute during the webinar. And if you have any comments or questions, please write it in the chat box. Please do not use the chat box for absence of attendance. The chat box is only for comments and also for questions. We will provide the link for certificate at the end of this webinar, and you can download your certificate within estimation 1 minute after submitted the form. So we also provide simultaneous see the picture here that the interpretation tool is in the bottom right of your screen. And we also have requested to all participants to rename your account with a format name and followed with your country and also your institution. For example, Pancha, Indonesia, and BKKBN. And allow me also to take this opportunity to acknowledge and say thanks to all the organizing committee who provide valuable support and work hard behind the screen to make this webinar realize. We have program design, and also we have the organizing committee in promotion, IT and protocol, and logistic and finance. Ladies and gentlemen, respected participants, it's time to start. The webinar will be hosted by the head of Center for International Training and Collaborations of the National Population and Family Planning Board of the Republic of Indonesia, BKKBN, Ibu Irma Ardiana, MD, MAPS.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends from across the world, PPD board members, PPD partner country coordinator, PPD executive director, Indonesia ministries and boards, commissions on population and development Republic of Philippines, ambassador of the Republic of Mozambique and the People's Democratic of Algeria, Ministry of Budget and National Planning Nigeria, National Population Council Uganda, National Council for Population and Development Government of Kenya, Ministry of Morocco, LPPK in Malaysia, General Office for Population and Family Planning Vietnam, Ambassador particularly for Tunisia and Seychelles, Ethiopian and Morocco Embassy, Asian Population Association Council members, John Hopkins Center for Communication Program, UNFPA representative and other development partners, speakers, discussions, and moderator of the webinar, universities, civil society organizations, media, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon from Jakarta, Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Irma Ardiana, Head of Center for International Training and Collaboration on Population and Family Planning, BKKBN. I will be the host for today's virtual seminar. For your information, we provide this webinar with simultaneous translation, English-French, English Bahasa. So please make sure you have activated the interpretation feature and set the language channel as appropriate. This webinar is also available in YouTube BKKBN officials, and we are recording this webinar, so you are welcome to access it at a later date. First of all, we are glad to announce that Indonesia through BKKBN has been selected and appointed as one of the executive committee of an intergovernmental organization in partners and population development with the position of a treasurer for the period of 2021-2023. Under this organization, BKKBN will continue promoting South-South cooperation through exchange experience and knowledge sharing. Therefore, it is our privilege to welcome all of you in our second international webinar hosted by BKKBN with the support from Partners in Population and Development, Commissions on Population and Development Republic of Philippines, and John Hopkins Center for Communication Program. The theme of the webinar is Family Planning and Family Development Program in Asian countries. As we know that Asia is the largest and most populous continent in the world. Every year, this region records an increase in its young population. But at the same time, due to continued increase in life expectancy and a reduction of total fertility rate, the aging population is also growing. Certainly, this situation calls for an appropriate policy. This webinar will discuss how countries in Asia learn the dynamic situation and translate it into programs and actions, particularly in terms of family planning and family development programs. We are honored to have experts from BKKBN who will share story how family planning program in Indonesia is carried out and how BKKBN plays a role in South-South cooperation. From Universitas Indonesia, who will describe issues on aging population in Indonesia in the context of dependency ratio and the impact of COVID-19 to the elderly. From Commissions on Population and Development Republic of Philippines, who will demonstrate efforts to reduce adolescent pregnancies. And from Renmin University of China, who will reveal the existence of family planning program in fertility below replacement setting in China. These topics will be discussed together with the presidents of Asian Population Association an Emeritus Professor of Demography, Australian National University, and Honorary Professor of the University of Melbourne. Now, we will turn the time over to invite the Honorable Executive Director of Partners in Population and Development, Mr. Adnene Ben Haj Aissa, to give his welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Irma. Your Excellency, Dr. Hasto Wardoyo, Chairman of BKKBN of Indonesia and Honorable PPD Board Member, distinguished panelists and participants, dear colleagues from BKKBN and participants from PPD member countries, ladies and gentlemen from all over the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I'm delighted to be with you today, participating in the second international webinar on family planning and family development program in Asian countries, organized by the National Family Planning Board of Indonesia and in collaboration with Partners in Population and Development, PPD. I wish to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to the PPD board member and chairman of BKKBN, Dr. Hasto Wardoyo, and would like to congratulate him once again, and through him the government of Indonesia, for being elected during the last board meeting held on 16th October 2020 as the treasurer of PPD board for the period 2021-2023. I wish also to thank our high-level panelists who will share with us their thoughts, knowledges, and experiences, and offer an excellent opportunity for information sharing, learning best practices within the spirit of and perspective for South-South cooperation. I also want to thank the Population Commission of Philippines and the Johns Hopkins Program for also their contribution to the organization of this webinar. Dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, Partners in Population and Development has been launched in 1994 during the International Conference on Population and Development by only 10 developing countries, having in common successful results in population policies and family planning programs, and known as the success stories, and willing to share their approaches and experiences with the developing countries to assist in the implementation of the ICPD program of action. Today, PPD is grouping 27 member countries, representing more than 60% of the world population, most of them concentrated in Asia, where PPD member countries, like in Africa and in Latin America, have witnessed dramatic demographic changes since the 70s, when family planning programs were launched because of concerns over population explosion. The world's population is still growing, although the rate of growth has been declining since the 60s, but global population grows each year by approximately 80 million people. Nearly all of this growth is concentrated in the developing nations, in many of which fertility rates remain high, imposing costly burdens on progress. It may impede opportunities for economic development, increase health risks for women and children, and erode the quality of life by reducing access to education, nutrition, employment, and scarce resources such as potable water. The current situation impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic shows once again that investment in health, including reproductive health, is the key element to build resilient societies. The PPD member states in Asia are Bangladesh, China, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. And they all have made a lot of investments in family planning programs, and they are still continuing their important investment. But they need to strengthen so that they can achieve the ICPD program of action within the context of the 2030 agenda. Thanks to family planning programs, which contributed by around 40% in population control, Asian countries have achieved impressive results by reducing their high fertility rates from an average of 5 children per woman during the 70s to currently 2 in most of the countries, like in Bangladesh, in India, in Indonesia, Sri Lanka. Contraceptive prevalence rate has also doubled in most countries, reaching 85% in China, 80% in Thailand, and 70% in Vietnam. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, family planning program is a lifetime of returns. It needs to be considered as a high policy priority and seen primarily in terms of its benefits to people's health and rights, but also as an important investment in economic development and higher living standards. Asian countries like other in Africa and in Latin America, which are also PPD member states, have benefited from their pioneering decision to launch what we called in the 70s vertical family planning programs led by the government and involving all stakeholders. Over the years, they have seen significant contributions to reduce the risk of maternal mortality, improve health for women and children, reduce the pressure on social sectors like education, health, and employment, and harnessing the demographic dividend. In this context, PPD is capitalizing on the gains and achievements made by its members in the different regions and has launched initiatives and programs with the aim to share best practices, experiences, and lessons learned on family planning with the member countries and other developing nations. Training sessions on Islam and family planning conducted by BKKBN Indonesia has been one of the leading programs in South-South cooperation among Asian countries. And also some African countries also contributed and participated in this pioneer program. Thailand has conducted several technical assistance programs on reproductive health. Bangladesh and Sri Lanka have developed best practices in reducing maternal mortality and are sharing their approaches with other Asian nations. China and India have launched innovative programs to support the efforts of developing countries through institutional and individual capacity building. Over the last 25 years, PPD has developed several strategic plans focusing mainly on reproductive health and family planning program improvements in its member countries and also with other developing countries. And it was done through advocacy and policy development with the International Interministerial Conference on South-South Cooperation in Population and Development, which is held annually in conjunction with the PPD's governance meetings and bring ministers, decision makers, donors, experts, academia, and NGO to review their progress in implementing ICPD program of action and the SDGs. And on the 19th of this month, in 2 days, we are going to have the first technical session of this of the 17th International Interministerial Conference, and followed by another session on 27th of November. And the last session will be the ministerial session on 8th of December. And you are all invited to join this meeting. Just visit our website. In response to family planning, PPD has initiated a global program on advancing family planning in partnership with the Gate Foundation in 6 developing countries covering Asia and Africa. Champions of family planning were selected along with media personality to advocate for strengthening family planning in these countries. Tangible results were being achieved due to the involvement of the champions in these countries. Particularly investments have been increased. Task shifting initiated. Effective programs have been developed to access methods, which can be transferred to other countries as they have achieved very good results. Before concluding, I wish to say that PPD's response to reposition family planning is through South-South and triangular cooperation, which is chartered as a roadmap to strengthen the exchange of resources, technology, and knowledge among developing countries, with a focus on programs to promote the health and well-being of women, girls, and young people. Population dynamics, sexual and reproductive health, and reproductive rights, and gender equality are the core of sustainable development. And that deepening South-South cooperation in this field will contribute to the health and well-being of individuals, families, and societies in developing countries and their sustainable development at large. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, the Honorable Mr. Adnene, for the remarks. Now, I kindly invite the Honorable Chairman of BKKBN, Bapak Hasto Wardoyo, to give his welcoming remarks and officially open this webinar.
Excellency, Minister, Head of Institution, and Ambassador of friendly country, partner in Population and Development Executive Committee member and board member, distinguished Mr. Adnene Ben, Executive Director of Partner in Population and Development, Partner Country Coordinators of PPD countries, Dr. Juan Antonio Perez, Executive Director of the Commission on Population and Development of Philippines, Professor Arisananta, President of the ASEAN Population and Association, speakers and participants of a webinar, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let us thank the God for His blessing and for allowing us to meet today in this webinar. As a member of Partner in Population and Development, National Population and Family Planning Board of the Republic Indonesia, BKKBN, is honored to be elected to be part of the Executive Committee member of Partner in Population and Development for the period of 2021 until 2023 at the PPD Annual Board meeting last October. Therefore, allow me to take this opportunity to thank the PPD Board and Secretariat for showing and confidence by entrusting BKKBN from Indonesia with this great responsibility. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, investing in family planning is a development-based plan, expanding access to contraceptive and ensuring the demand for family planning is satisfied are essential for achieving universal access to reproductive health care services as called for in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Abundant evidence have shown how family planning help reduce poverty, help women time and space their pregnancy to ensure healthy nutritional outcome, save life, support women's and girls' education, advance gender equity and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, as with many other countries, Indonesia is also committed to Nairobi Summit commitment on ICPD 25, accelerating the promised end of preventable maternal death, end of unmet need for family planning, end of sexual and gender-based violence and harmful practice. Indonesia will continue to invest for its full and accelerated implementation, innovation, and strategic partnership, including with the between youth, civil society, organization, local community, the private sector, and through short and triangular cooperation, SSTC, among countries. I believe all countries strive to deal with the impact caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is therefore an urgent need for new evidence and research to improve our understanding of the crisis in developing countries and appropriate policy response. Indonesia is honored to contribute to SSTC and broad framework of collaboration among countries of the South and partner with development partners. In the spirit of SSTC, the second webinar aims to increase the improved communication among development countries, leading to the greater awareness of common problems and wider access to availability, knowledge and experience, as well as the creation of new knowledge in addressing development problems, include the issues of COVID-19 outbreak and to meet the promise. Finally, with this remark, I declare the opening of the webinar and wish you all success discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Honorable Bapak Hasto Wardoyo. Dear distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, there is growing recognition of the importance of addressing the sexual and reproductive health of adolescents. Investment in reproductive health is a key to youth empowerment. Please allow us to have 5 minutes of your time to see one of BKKBN's best practices in adolescent reproductive health program in a video. This video captures how Indonesia addressed the challenges through Plant Generation Initiative. It is a nationwide program with an emphasis to empower adolescents and youth by providing them with necessary knowledge and skill in order they are able to say no to premarital sex, early marriage, and drug abuse. The tagline of delayed age of first marriage, known as 21-25, meaning females are encouraged to delay their first marriage until they are 21 years old and 25 years old for males. So enjoy the video.
West Java, with its various potentials, hold challenges that are not simple. Potentials and challenges are inseparable, like two sides of coin. Moreover, according to Bappenas projections, in the next 2021, the population of West Java will reach 50 million. With a population totaling around 50 million inhabitants of West Java, 12 million inhabitants are teenagers. This is such a great opportunity if put to good use. The demographic bonus is no longer a mirage in a broad daylight to reach. West Bandung, as one of the young districts in West Java, faces a difficult demographic challenges. In 2005, a group of teenagers started a global action from the local level, establishing a youth counseling and information centers called Rumah Remaja. Rumah Remaja came as part of the solution to social conditions such as the higher underage marriage rates, local residents who are marginalized by urbanization, and other population problems.
Pada tanggal 12 Februari 2005, kami mendirikan Rumah Remaja dengan sebuah pemikiran bahwa remaja harus tumbuh dan berkembang dengan baik. Mereka tidak boleh dibiarkan hidup tanpa bimbingan. Mereka tidak boleh dibiarkan berkembang sesuai dengan apa yang mereka mau saja, tetapi juga mereka harus diberi pencerahan bagaimana tentang merencanakan masa depan. Ada sebuah kemirisan di mana daerah Batu Jajar, tempat rumah remaja ini berada, itu merupakan daerah suburban, yaitu tempat pertemuan antara dua budaya, yaitu budaya industri dengan budaya pertanian dari desa. Sehingga secara gaya hidup mereka sudah bergaya hidup seperti halnya daerah-daerah industri. Tetapi sebenarnya secara kemampuan dan mental mereka masih ada di daerah pedesaan dan pertanian. Sehingga ada shock budaya yang luar biasa di Batu Jajar ini. Kami berpikir kalau remaja ini tidak diberi bekal yang mumpuni, pertama mereka akan mengalami gagal bersaing. Gagal mendapatkan persaingan untuk melanjutkan pendidikan, gagal bersaing untuk melanjutkan pekerjaan, gagal bersaing dalam merencanakan kehidupan berkeluarga, dan mereka mungkin juga akan gagal dalam menjadi anggota masyarakat yang normal. Dan terakhir bisa jadi saja mereka juga gagal dalam mempraktekkan hidup sehat. Oleh karena itu kami berpikir bahwa remaja harus dibekali menjadi remaja yang tangguh.
Teenagers have an important role in the development of West Bandung. The government also supports the growth and the development of creative youth communities such as the information centers and youth counseling. This commitment exists in West Bandung Region Regulation number 24 of 2015 about guidelines for implementing maturity, of the Age Marriage Maturation Program and Regent Regulation Number 25 of 2015 about guideline for managing youth information and counseling centers. Rumah Remaja has 4 thematic activity centers, namely Life Skill Development, Religious Studies and Development, Business and Entrepreneur Development, and Development of Nationalism and Society.
Saya Ketua Rumah Remaja periode 2007 sampai 2012 dan alhamdulillah sampai sekarang saya masih aktif di remaja, masih aktif di bidang remaja terutama di bidang keagamaan.
Banyak pelajaran yang bisa saya ambil di rumah remaja, salah satunya life skill. Sekarang saya bisa membuka usaha kuliner.
Di rumah remaja itu bukan hanya sebuah organisasi, wadah untuk mengembangkan minat dan bakat remaja. Tapi lebih dari itu, sebuah keluarga.
Di rumah remaja ini aku belajar banyak banget. Aku beruntung banget bisa jadi salah satu bagian dari rumah remaja.
Aku bangga banget bisa jadi salah satu bagian dari rumah remaja karena aku bisa dapat teman baru, dapat ilmu baru, dan aku bisa jadi salah satu duta generasi berencana.
Nah, Jawa Barat ini ada program keren dari BKKBN, namanya 2125 Keren.
Oh, apa itu Kak?
Jadi, pernikahan yang terencana dan sehat dan baik itu secara psikologis, biologis itu adalah yang perempuan idealnya minimal di 21, nah laki-lakinya di 25, maka di judulnya 2125.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampurasun. I'm Atalia Ridwan Kamil as West Java Mother Ambassador of Genre, appreciates the progress of the Youth Counseling and Information Center in West Java, which was initiated by BKKBN with West Java teenagers. Special appreciation for Rumah Remaja, which 16 years has been fostering teenagers in West Bandung Regency. We believe that anyone will be happy to visit West Java. Therefore, we invite the international community to share experiences together at Rumah Remaja, so that the spirit of 21-25 will be even more amazing and Bangga Kencana program goes global. Semangat 21-25 keren, jabat juara lahir dan batin, salam genre, berencana itu keren.
Dear distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, now we are coming to the discussion session. It will be moderated by Ms. Valerina Daniel. She is a prominent journalist and an environment ambassador in Indonesia and a former advisor to the Indonesian Minister of Tourism for Sustainable Tourism Development. She is currently helping the Australia-Indonesia Center to focus on communications and women's leadership. As a journalist, Valerina has covered many stories, from the devastating tsunami in Aceh and Sri Lanka to the US presidential election in Washington, D.C. She has worked for national TV stations in Indonesia. So may I invite Ms. Valerina Daniel to moderate the sessions? So time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Irma, for hosting this event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace and prosperity be upon us. Good afternoon and bonjour. Greetings to all of you, our friends, participants from foreign countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Valerina Daniel, and it is my pleasure to be your moderator today for today's webinar, the second international webinar, Family Planning and Family Development Program in Asian countries, organized by the National Population and Family Planning Board of the Republic of Indonesia, supported by PPD, Partners in Population Development, Johns Hopkins Center for Communication Program, and Commission on Population and Development, Republic of Philippines. As is already mentioned earlier, this webinar will focus or will discuss the current situation with the focus of Asia as the most populous continent on Earth, where every year there is an increase of young population and at the same time a growing number of aging population as a result of life expectancy advancement. So therefore, there's an urgent need to manage the population through a comprehensive family planning and family development. So without further ado, it is my honor to introduce our speakers for today. And then we also will be joined by discussants later in Q&A sessions. Before I start introducing the first speaker of the day, I would like to remind all the speakers that your time for your presentation is 25 minutes. So let me introduce you to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Professor Rizal Damanik, PhD, the Deputy for Training, Research and Development, BKKBN Indonesia, Partner Country Coordinator, Partners in Population and Development, PPD. And he is also a professor in human nutrition at IPB University in Bogor, Indonesia. His domain research is in the area of traditional foods, belief, and practice, exploring the beneficial of wild plants in relation to the health and community nutrition, one of which is the benefit of terbangun leaf to improve the quality of breast milks. So today, Professor Rizal Damanik, PhD, will talk about Bangga Kencana program and BKKBN's role in South-South and triangular cooperation. To Professor Rizal Damanik, the time is yours.
Thank you, moderator, Ms. Valerina Daniel. Your Excellencies, distinguished panelists and participants, ladies and gentlemen from all over the world, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon to all of you. The outline of my presentation, slide please. Next. The outline of my presentation this afternoon consists of introduction and then BKKBN Strategic Plan 2020-2024 and BKKBN's role in SSTC and the closing. So let's move to the introduction. The global population trends are driven largely by trends in fertility, especially in the average number of women over a lifetime, which has fallen markedly over recent decades in many countries. Over the past several decades, virtually all regions have experienced fertility decline. The left graph shows you the average number of live births per woman over a lifetime that has fallen markedly in many regions over the past several decades. Today, close to half of the global population lives in a country or area where lifetime fertility is below 2.1 births per woman. In 2019, fertility remains above this level. On average, in sub-Saharan Africa, 4.6, Oceania, exclude Australia and New Zealand, 3.4, Northern Africa and Western Asia, 2.9, and Central and Southern Asia, 2.4. Globally, the level of fertility is expected to fall from an average of 2.5 live births per woman in 2019 to 2.2 in 2050 and to 1.9 in 2100, according to the medium variant projection. The largest reductions in the level of total fertility are projected to occur in sub-Saharan Africa Life expectancy at birth of the world reached 22.6 years in 2019, having added more than 8 years since 1990. All regions share in the rise of life expectancy over this period, but the greatest gains were in sub-Saharan Africa, where improvements in survival have added nearly 12 years to the average length of life since 1990, reaching 61.1 years in 2019. In Central and Southern Asia, the life expectancy at birth increased by more than 11 years between 1990 and 2019, when it reached 69.9 years. Improvements in survival are expected to continue in all regions, such that in 2050, the average length of life is projected to have increased to 77.1 years globally. Of the 8 SDGs regions, life expectancy at birth is highest in Australia or New Zealand at 83.2 years in 2019, and it is expected to increase further to 87.1 in 2050. Graph in the right side demonstrates that in sub-Saharan Africa and Oceania, exclude Australia and New Zealand, as well as in parts of Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean, the working age population, or 25 to 64 years, is growing faster than other age groups. These conditions can yield an opportunity for accelerated economic growth, known as the demographic dividend. Slide, please. This slide shows you the Indonesia population projection 2015 to 2045. Under the scenario A, total fertility rates, or TFR, starts to be stagnant in year 2020 to 2045 at 2.1 children per woman. The infant mortality rates follow SDGs target in the year 2030, and the net international MIC ratio is minus 0.5. Under scenario B, on the other hand, TFR follows pattern from population census. The infant mortality rate follows pattern from population census and intercensual population census, and the net international MIC ratio is similar, minus 0.5. Based on projection, proportion of those aged below 15 represents 26% of total population in year 2015. In year 2045, the proportion is projected to decline at 21% in scenario A and 20% in scenario B. Number of working age populations, which are 15 to 64 years old, is 174.7 million and represents about 68% of total population in year 2015. Both scenarios demonstrate that this group continuously grows in all projection period. It will reach between 208 million in scenario A and 206 million in scenario B in the year of 2045. Population age above 60 will increase from 9% or equal to 23 million in year 2015 to 19.9% equal to 60.3 million in year 2045 according to the scenario A, and to 19.7% or 61.4 million according to the scenario B. Slide, please. So this is about the TFR and wanted fertility and CPR based on the data collected from 1967 to 2017. In the context of Indonesia, carefully looking at the accomplishments of the government to avoid overpopulation represented by National Family Planning Coordinating Board since 2009, so-called National Population and Family Planning Board, steady reduction in total fertility rate was demonstrated significantly by half during 1967 and 1994. The reduction was disrupted ever since until 2012 to be at 2.6 and later been slightly decreased to be at 2.4 in 2017. This TFR trends appears to be consistent with the uptakes of contraceptive use, as it is sound applied to pattern. This figure convinces us that contraceptive use remains a major factor determining Indonesia's total fertility rate. One might argue that the stall of TFR in Indonesia is associated with the decentralization of family planning program to local governments that previously was vertically arranged. Slide, please. Family planning is an important tool in individuals' and couples' reproductive life, which focuses on improving maternal and child health. There are current family planning and beyond family planning parameters in 2019, including first, the 8 function of family, percentage of Indonesia's family with an understanding and awareness of 8 functions of family. This is 43.2%. Second, awareness on population issues, percentage of Indonesia's family with an understanding on population issues, 55.8%. The third, ideal family size, married women aged 15 to 49 report 2.7 children as their ideal family size, compared with 2.9 children among married men aged 15 to 54. The fourth, unmet need, women wanting to postpone or limit their births but do not access contraceptions, is 12.1%. And the fifth, discontinuation rate, women discontinue using contraceptive for the first 12 months of use, 29%. And median age at first marriage of women aged 25 to 49, which is 20 years old. Next is about the BKKBN Strategic Plan 2020 to 2024. Slide, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is currently in the last period of our long-term development plan 2005-2025. We have established our national medium-term development plan 2020 to 2024, and the government of Indonesia has set 7 development agendas which are in line with the elected president's missions and directions. Among these agendas, 3 of them are highly related to the core business of BKKBN, namely Agenda 3, which is to improve quality and competitive human resources by providing family planning and reproductive health services. Agenda 4, mental revolution and cultural development by focusing on strengthening family resilience. And Agenda 7, strengthen stability of political, security, law, and transformation of public services by particularly being active to promote South-to-South triangular in collaboration. Next slide, please. As mentioned in the previous slide, Indonesia is currently in the last period of our long-term development plan, 2005 to 2025. We have established our national medium-term development plan 2020 to 2024 and already been translated into BKKBN strategic plan 2020 to 2024. In this 5-year development plan, BKKBN is acknowledged to be part of national initiative to enhance quality of human resources. Number of indicators has been settled, and BKKBN is responsible for 6 strategic indicators. Total fertility rate is an indicator that is in line with the issue of population management. Replacement level is projected to be achieved in 2024. MCPR, unmet need, SFR, 15 to 19 years old, and median age at first marriage of women aged 25-49 are indicators that are put in the context of reproductive health and rights. It is also related to government instrument to further reduce maternal and infant mortality, as well as a prevalence of stunting. We have also a new indicator to strengthen values of Indonesia's family, namely Family Development Index. It captures 3 dimensions of family, consisting of family happiness, welfare, and serene. The targets vary across provinces according to their baseline and potential to support national accomplishments. We are aware of regional patterns indicating an even enabling environment, acceptability of modern contraceptive, and value of children. Slide, please. This slide shows that BKKBN has developed national policy and strategy direction 2020 to 2024 to improve the accountability of Bangga Kencana management to ensure the good governance is in place. The policies and strategies are: first, increasing family resilience and welfare in a holistic and integrated manner based on individuals' life cycle and to strengthen family-based character building. Second, increasing access and quality of comprehensive family planning and reproductive health services by regions and focusing on target segmentation. The third, improving quality of BKKBN workforce, increasing research uptake and innovation, and strengthening global partnership of Bangga Kencana. Fourth, strengthening, aligning, and synchronizing population control policies. The fifth, increasing the advocacy and mobilization of Bangga Kencana program, taking into account regional and target segment characteristics. And the sixth, strengthening an integrated family information system. Slide, please. So understanding the political reform, interrelationship among layers of government institutions, how local government perceive family planning as their default authorities, and the fact that Indonesia could sustain TFR during 1.5 decades after the decentralization, there are at least 4 major components explaining our struggle to maintain the program in this volatile environment, namely institutional arrangements, regulatory framework, funding scheme, and public service delivery frameworks. In terms of institutional arrangement, Central Family Planning Office still maintains the existence of its representative in all provinces, except for Jakarta as the capital city of Indonesia. The representative offices perform coordination function to bridge triangular relationship among Central Family Planning Office, province, and district family planning offices. Indonesia is also known as a country having strong grassroots resources. The amendment of regional autonomy in 2014 gave a mandate to transfer family planning field workers from being local government employees to be as centrals. It was in fiscal year 2017 that the government provided 15,352 field family planning field workers' salary from Indonesia budget. The numbers seems to decrease as many of them are already retired and leave. The ratio between family planning field workers and village is far from ideal. The ratio is about 1 to 5. Currently, central government deliberately recover their technical competencies by providing a massive trainings. We also have 10,000 non-government family planning field workers. They are recruited by the local government to compensate insufficient numbers of family planning field workers. They are closely working with 1.2 million voluntarily cadre. With regards to regulatory framework, population, family planning, and family development is acknowledged in the National Medium-Term Development Plan 2020 to 2024, as discussed earlier, in which this document will be a reference for local government development plan. To make sure that local government puts their commitment and appropriate resources for the program, Ministry of Home Affairs, managing the authority of local governments, has published supportive regulations. To sustain and to have a convergent activities between central and local governments, we also have Indonesia budget transfer to local government through specific allocation fund scheme to support behavioral change communication initiative and family planning services. Through Kampung Kabi, or in English we call it the Quality Family Village Project, our program also explores the opportunity to mobilize a village fund. The other compartment is public service delivery framework, in which we try to standardize the delivery of program performed by local government. Here, we are responsible to also provide contraceptive to all eligible couples under or outside National Health Insurance Program. Every 5 years, we conduct family census that due to COVID outbreak this year, the census is postponed to be executed in 2021. Annually, the data is updated for the purpose of program interventions. This is about the BKKBN's role in SSTC. In this slide, we can see BKKBN's role in the framework of SSTC. Indonesia's SSTC is a manifestation of its strong commitment and contribution to global development. The primary objective of Indonesia SDTCs are: first, introducing best practice; second, sharing views and knowledge; third, enhancing communication to solve global issues; and fourth, partnership in triangular cooperation. There are 3 flagship programs in Indonesia's SSTC. 1 is a development issue, 2 is a good governance, and the 3 is the economic issues. BKKBN has initiated knowledge sharing and expert dispatch since 1970s, with more than 5,000 participants came to Indonesia. We share our best practices, especially on population, family planning, and productive health, also family development issues. We commit to follow the 8 values of the spirit of SSTC. The first is equality and mutual respect. Second, inclusive. The third, in line with national development priorities. 4, demand-driven. 5, solidarity. 6, comprehensive and sustainable. 7, transparency and accountable. And the 8, non-interference. Slide, please.
Excuse me, Professor, your time for your presentation has already finished. Will you be able to...
the last slide of my presentation.
Thank you.
So BKKBN has conducted international training program under SSTC framework, which including 7 thematic training in 8 selected provinces, quality family village projects, supply chain management, adolescent reproductive health, Muslim religious leaders, micro data management, and and then postpartum family planning program, and comprehensive family planning service training. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Please, moderator.
Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. I'd like to highlight some important points before we move on to our next speaker. The first point is that world population is projected to increase due to life expectancy advancement. And then the second one is in the context of Indonesia, with the implementation of the National Development Plan since 1967, there is a steady reduction in total fertility rate, or TFR, which was demonstrated significantly from 5.6 in 1967 to 2.4 in 2017. And lastly, the Indonesian best practice is mostly due to shared leadership between the central and local government, with Bangga Kencana program is the proven guidance to family planning program in Indonesia, and also Indonesia's involvement in South-South Triangular cooperation. So thank you, Professor, for your presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Dr. Lilis Heri Miss Cicih. She's from University of Indonesia. Dr. Lilis is a public health specialist from the University of Indonesia atau UI, and also as a demographer. She joined the LDFEB UI since 1991 as a researcher. She is also a lecturer in economic and business faculty, University of Indonesia, public health faculty, University of Indonesia, UMHT, and IPB University. So today, Dr. Lilis will talk about aging population and demographic bonus in Indonesia with a research result conducted with BKKBN. So Dr. Lilis, the time is yours for 25 minutes from now.
Thank you for introduction, Valerina Daniels. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable all speakers, discussion, and all attendants in this conference. Firstly, I want to thank to BKKBN who invited me and give me an opportunity to make a presentation in this conference. I hope we stay healthy and safe. Let me share my screen. Today, I want to present about the aging population and demographic bonus in Indonesia. This is the study result collaboration between my institute, Demographic Institute, Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas Indonesia, and BKKBN. I will present only part of the result of the study because the limited time, and we will talk about the population characteristic, fertility, mortality, and mobility by province according to the demographic bonus achievement. And also we present about the characteristic of older population in a normal and pandemic COVID-19 situation. As we know that Indonesia, as in other countries around the world, the number of births is declining while life expectancy is rising, as Professor Damanik mentioned. The world today is experiencing rapid demographic change characterized by the fastest growing segment of the world population being those aged 60 and over. So Indonesia is heading toward an aging population. This is the Indonesia population trend from 1979 until 2045. You can see here that the number of population almost tripled than in 75 years, from 1971 until 2045. And also, as Professor Damanik mentioned, that life expectancy has increased, and life expectancy is much longer. And also for the population 60 plus, changes in population structure encourage the population aging. In 2045, Indonesia facing the aging society. And how about the Indonesian population structural change? Population structural change made Indonesia become the largest working age population. And 2020 until 2024, Indonesia potentials and challenges become demographic dependent and population aging. But for this, we need a strategy to optimize the human development using life cycle. How make the population competitive, or how make a competitive human resources with the versatile and skillful manpower, and also creative, adaptive, and innovative entrepreneur. And also how make the older person healthy and productive. It is still challenges for our government. And for this, in this study, we want to know what are the demographic conditions at the national and provincial level during the demographic bonus period, and then what the characteristic of the older population before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the research objective to analyze the characteristic of the province according to the achievement of the demographic bonus and the characteristic of the older persons. We have 4 specific objectives, but for this presentation, we only present only two specific objectives to analyze the population characteristic, fertility, mortality, migration, and by province according to the demographic bonus achievement, and to analyze the social, economic, and health condition of the older population. As we know that we have regulation about the older person, but we still process. We have the new regulation for older person welfare, but still process in the parliament. And also we have developed the national strategy for aging population, but it's also still processed, and we still process for assigning by our president. This is the study we conducted since August until November 2020 using various data sources from the BKKBN, from the Statistics Indonesia, and other official publication. And also we collected the data from the older person by using online survey to know the impact of COVID-19 on the lives of older person. We analyzed the data descriptively and inferential analysis, but for this presentation, we only present descriptive result. This is our variable analysis in the province levels and also in the individual levels. For the individual levels, we collect the data, we analyze the data about social, economic, health, housing condition, access to information technology, and other person activities. Older person activities, especially for, we want to know the working status and what the determinant of working status, especially for the inferential analysis. And for the demographic bonus, we based on the dependency ratio. This is the Indonesia trans dependency ratio. We can see here that in 2020, we have the dependency ratio 45 and 5.5. And since 2010, the dependency ratio is less than 50. And now it's for the demographic period. But as we know that demographic bonus is a condition in which the productive age population is more than the non-productive population. But demographic bonus can be a bonus if the population is able to get decent education and also access to facilities to improve their quality. This is the demographic parameters by province. We try to analyze the dependency ratio and total fertility rate, infant mortality rate, and healthy life expectancy, net migration, and percentage of population 60 plus. Based on the population projection to 2015 until 2045. We define the dependency ratio based on the achievement. The highest dependency ratio is in Nusa Tenggara Timur, more than 50, and in 2020, and also this province has the highest level of fertility. This province have the total fertility 2.77, is more than a national level. And also this province is Nusa Tenggara Timur has the infant mortality rate still intermediate level, because the IMR, infant mortality rate more than 30, still more than 30. This is and also we can see here the another province by dependency ratio achievement. And how about the older person characteristics? We calculated by from the 2019 Susunas data from Statistik Indonesia. We summarize this characteristic here. So we can see here that the older person most living with 3 generations. I think it's correlated with the topic this today, that's about the family. So it is the challenging how can improve the quality, the family quality, to make harmonization about 3 generations, and to make the older person stay safe and comfortable in their house and their family. Because some neglected, abuse, and discrimination based on the household members. And based on the age groups, most of the older person is young old, is 60 until 69 years. And also we found that female older person is more than male, and based on the distribution, the older person living in urban is more than rural. But for the percentage, older person living in rural more than urban area. As we know that the level of education in Indonesia is still low, and also for older person, most of the older person is primary education. But for the marital status, the older person still married. But we also found that widow woman is more than widow male. Woman more than it is has to pay attention for them, especially if a widow woman living alone. And how about the economic condition? Indonesia, especially for older person living in the lower income, because in here you can see 40% lower is most percentage compared with the another categories. And most of the older person has own house, but for the phone usage and internet usage is still low. I think it has to more pay attention, because in the pandemic era we have to communicate and have to this social distancing, and we have to communicate by virtual, something like that. So for Indonesia, is especially for the older person, is still low. And for the employment status, almost all the people person is employed. But if we look for the from the online survey, other person respondents state that the reason for continuing to the work is to fulfill the needs of family members or themselves. And they're also because hobbies is limited percentage and spare time and also not having pension. And also we have found the reason is about the helping household member. This is the reason why the elderly still working. And for the housing finance sources, most of the elderly have the financing sources from the working household members. And also must older person is no have the bank account. It is have to pay attention if we have to improve the quality of the person in the next future. And how about the health status? We analyze the functional capacity status of older person. Most of the older person not having difficulty, but for the completely enable, although the percentage is small, but it still receive attention from the older person who have completely enabled. Why? Because if the percentage increase, is how to provide the caregiver. It is from family or from professional caregiver. And also we know that the number of caregiver until now is still low. So it is the challenges how to provide the caregivers for elderly. And how about characteristic of older people or the person respondent by online research? We found 2,300 older person. We assisted by BKKBN cadres in all provinces in Indonesia, and we have the response for older person is around 2,300 people. And the characteristic is same with the almost same with the characteristic based on 2019 Susunas data, but we can look here. Is main disease suffered by older people is hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. And this is the interesting finding is 147 older person need long-term care. So we have to pay attention for the older person is need long-term care because it's related to caregivers also, and we have to pay attention for the financial for the long-term care because this is need caregiver and also health financing. And this is we can see the 66% of the person can fulfill their own needs, and as we mentioned before, that most of the older person living with their family. And how about the another impact of COVID-19 pandemic on older person? This is the most of the older person feeling very anxious, and this is have to pay attention for the elderly. And another impacted their life is deteriorating economic condition, is around 36.5%, and their income is around 80%, and most of older person, around 40%, feel experiencing decreased income, 50 and more percent. and also they have the effective social relation and lack of support, social support. And also although the percentage is still low, around 2.6%, but we have paid attention for the elderly who live with the family because around 2.6% older person experiencing neglected and often conflict with the family members is 20% and decreasing in older person group activities. This is impact of COVID-19 pandemic on older person. And from this, we have identified some challenges to improve the quality of older person and also for improve the quality of population. We have to improve the quality human resources, including to achieve the demographic bonus and also increasing the level of education, health, and technology to improve population productivity because it's one of population need. And increasing older person support to fulfill their rights, especially during the pandemic, and increasing family resiliency to protect older person from discrimination, abuse, neglected, and violence. Therefore, they elderly safe and comfortable living in their families. And last, the enhancing family and community empowerment to create income generating. I think this is my presentation is a brief summary from our result. Thank you very much and terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Lilis, for your presentations. It's a very interesting result from the research. I think we also know from the research that Indonesia is now moving toward becoming an aging population country in 25 years from now. And therefore, Indonesia needs to prepare its human resource quality. And then second, based on the research, which is elected in 2019 and during COVID-19 pandemic, it says that Indonesia's dependency ratio has reached 46.3. And then during the pandemic, the older people are among those affected by both decreased income, health, and risk of death. And lastly, I'd also like to underline the question raised by Dr. Lilis, which is how to manage a 3 generations households in terms of economically, health, and etc. So maybe later during our Q&A session, we can hear more comments from other countries' participants. So thank you. So now we are going to moving on to our next speaker. The next speaker is Dr. Juan Antonio Perez III, the Executive Director of Commission on Population and Development of Philippines. So Dr. Perez is a medical doctor and a public servant. He has had over 33 years of experience in public and private sector health programs in the Philippines. He has headed the Commission on Population as Executive Director since September 2013. He has managed substantial programs for the Department of Health, USAID, the World Bank, and the Asian Development Bank. So today, Dr. Perez will talk about creating an enabling environment for the Filipino adolescents towards the prevention of early pregnancy. So the time is yours for 25 minutes from now.
Thank you, Valerina. Good afternoon from the Philippines, and good morning and good evening to everyone else all over the world. Today, for this seminar, I'd like to focus on a development which is concerning the population sector very much in the Philippines, and this is the increasing number of early pregnancies in the Philippines. So how far have we gone in creating an enabling environment to address this emerging issue? My outline will have 4 basic areas. First, I will talk about what we know about adolescent pregnancy in the Philippines. Second, what are the roles of key stakeholders to address and protect the sexual and reproductive health of Filipino adolescents? And what are we doing to basically address these sexual and reproductive health issues? And finally, what more should we do as we move, particularly in today's time when we have a pandemic, and in the near future when the continuing impact of the pandemic on the health system will be felt. So first, what do you know about adolescent pregnancy in the Philippines? We have been conducting surveys on the number of the percentage of Filipino youth who have had premarital sex before age of 18. And at 3 points in time, 1994, 2002, and 2013, we were able to see that there was almost more than 10% increase in the percentage of Filipino youth who had sex before 18. So it's an upward trend in the proportion of young Filipinos. And furthermore, we note that girls actually, participation or engagement in premarital sex increased from 2000. So that now we are seeing more than 25% of the numbers engaged in risky sexual activities without any protection. So this sexually risky behavior and the low and inconsistent use of protection during sexual activities leads our young people to be vulnerable to sexually transmitted diseases, infections, and our major issue here is unintended pregnancies. It has been increasing among adolescent Filipinos. Now, unintended pregnancies are a major concern because this is associated with a range of adverse consequences for the mother and the child, and particularly in a situation when the mother is still a child. Our National Demographic Health Survey, the most recent one in 2017, showed that 9% of women 15 to 19 years old are already pregnant with their first child or are already mothers. And this is a decline from the 10% we noted in 2013. And therefore, this survey shows that the number of live births among women age 15 to 19 has gone down from 57 per thousand in 2013 to 47 per thousand in the same age group in 2017. When we compare ourselves to other countries in the Southeast Asian region, we note that we are at present with a figure of 47 per thousand. We are number 4. But when we first started monitoring, taking a close look on adolescent pregnancies, we were at the same level as Cambodia at 57. So the decline has been significant, but still a worrisome development for the country. It's a good news that adolescent pregnancy is declining, but one pregnant teenager is still one pregnant teenager too many. And these are the words of our former Secretary of Health, Secretary Cabral. And we are not even counting the unfortunate girls younger than 15 who have become pregnant. They are not many, but each one is a tragic story. They really need our help. And when we look at those aged 10 to 14 years old, based on our civil registry, we have noted that in 2008, the number was 1,000, but in 10 years later, we are seeing a doubling of that number to 2,250 when it comes to very young adolescent mothers. And we have also noted that among these minor children, those below 18, the number of repeat pregnancies has been increasing, declining, but still a worrying number at around 10% of them uh, showing second or repeat pregnancies. When we also look at the um, partners of these adolescent mothers, we have noted from our civil registry that older fathers, the number of older partners among these young women is now at 64% who are older, are 20 years or older, while those of similar or close to the age of the mothers, young adolescent mothers, it's only one out of three is of the same age. So you have an increasing age difference among mothers and these adolescent mothers and their partners. We, and probably as a consequence of this, we also note that in a survey, 3.6% of adolescent women reported experiencing violence during pregnancy. And this is the highest level of violence that was reported among women 15 to 49 in our demographic health survey. And the number of fathers below 18 who are saying that uh, uh, they are the fathers of these adolescent mothers has also gone up. So the batang ama or the young fathers has been increasing between 2015 and 2016. There was somewhat a decrease, but still this is all overall an increase. The economic consequences of teen pregnancy can be rather severe. The age earnings wage rate profile among those who complete high school is much higher among those who complete high school than those who do not. So early childbearing reduces age earnings or the wage rate profile because these young women have not completed high school. And the discounted lifetime wage earnings that are foregone by a cohort of these women 18 to 19 years is estimated at 33 billion pesos per annum. And this is uh, quite a large income lost for young adolescent mothers who are already vulnerable. COVID-19 has an influence, so we believe, on the incidence of teen pregnancy. Without community quarantine, we would predict 84,000 adolescent pregnancies unintended. But the UP Population Institute estimates an additional 18,000 adolescent pregnancies due to the limited mobility of women, of people, as well as the impact of COVID on health services availability. So the percent increase that we could see in probably early next year is a 21% increase. So all these issues have led us to pursue, to identify what are the roles of key stakeholders in this whole phenomenon. We believe that the family is primarily the educator of these young adolescent mothers. Government, school, church, media, and civil society organizations are at the outer core and seen as supporting institutions. For parents who act as primary, we believe they should be acting as primary sexuality educators. Their key strategies are communication, and we have seen that increased parent-child communication is associated with reduction of overall risky sexual activity. It's also important, particularly in the time of COVID, for parents to identify teachable moments, daily opportunities that occur when parents can easily share with their adolescent children messages that include values and sexuality-related concerns. On the outer layer, we believe that the school, the church, media, all act as secondary educators that are important for values formation, for life skills development of young people, and increasingly important in schools is sexuality education. Our national and local governments are important, particularly to provide direction as to policy and therefore create the enabling environment. National and local governments are expected to design and implement national and local programs on adolescent health and development. And it's important that together they set up an information and service delivery network for adolescents, which are linked to services that are needed by young people. And with the identification of stakeholders, what are they actually doing to intervene and improve on the availability and of sexual reproductive health services for Filipino adolescents? First, we have the Philippine Development Plan, similar to Indonesia's own plan. We have a Philippine Youth Development Plan, which identifies teen pregnancy as one of the key areas of concern, and the Philippine Population Management Program has a second pillar, adolescent health and development. So in service delivery, we are seeing the Department of Health, a national agency, setting the standards for adolescent-friendly health facilities run by local governments, and they work to enhance the capacities of providers for adolescent health. And we are working together to establish teen centers to complement the services provided by public health facilities. And these are where local governments and civil societies have a role to play. In the area of demand generation, to address the needs of adolescents, we are today, this year actually, implementing comprehensive sexuality education in schools led by our Department of Education. We are mainstreaming various demand generation strategies for adolescents and duty bearers, particularly parents, which are led by this commission. And we are continuing to advocate for the promotion and improvement of sexual reproductive health of young people, particularly those below 18, by working with the Council for the Welfare of Children, another government agency that is focused on the welfare of minors and other NGOs. So what else needs to be done? No? We have seen some success, but we know that much work still has to be done. So among the ways forward, we are looking at striving to improve the access of adolescents to sexual reproductive health information and services. And this is the joint work of the Department of Health and the Commission on Population to strengthen the link of demand generation that we are seeing in schools and communities to services needed by these young people by establishing referral pathways. We are also working to strengthen policy measures to protect very young adolescents from pregnancies that may be arising due to sexual abuse or rape. And for this, we are working with the Council of Welfare of Children to address, to collaborate and develop policies that will address the welfare of very young adolescents. We are also working at the level of the community to prevent and reduce adolescent pregnancies through pursuing comprehensive sexuality education even beyond the schools. And here we address other duty bearers, parents, local government, civil society organizations, and religious organizations, the church. We are also working to develop, actually instigate social protection programs for young parents, for the batang ina, young mothers. And the numbers are around 60,000 every year. So this is a big number of minor parents who are first-time mothers every year who need social protection, so that we hope that from the beginning when they give birth in hospitals, they can be supported through family planning services and strengthen alternative leave alternative learning systems, and even employment programs for these adolescent parents. We are also looking at creating comprehensive and harmonized government mechanisms for adolescent health and development, beginning at the national level through interagency working groups that will reach to the local levels and therefore come up with more efficient and effective programs at the local level to address this. Finally, we are also looking at South-South cooperation, South-South triangular cooperation, particularly with neighboring Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia, with which we have had a South-South triangular cooperation for the last 6 years, I believe. And we want to expand this partnership with Indonesia to other Southeast Asian countries so we can learn and act together to create a truly enabling environment for our young people all over the region. I thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a good afternoon and good evening and good morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perez, for your presentation. An interesting insight from the Philippines. Of course, we can learn that there is an increase in sexual activity among young people in the Philippines. However, based on 2017 National Demographic and Health Survey, there is a decline in the incidence pregnancies among the 15 and 19 age group due to various government and non-government programs to raise the awareness. And then we also learned that a bigger discrepancy of age in married couple leads to rise of domestic violence, and that's why it needs more urgent response. Finally, Dr. Perez underlined that family is the main actor in sexual education for adolescents. Other actors such as church, schools, and other government and non-government sectors have also been involved actively in raising awareness and spreading information about reproductive health. So thank you, Dr. Perez, for your insightful information about the Philippines. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to introduce our next speaker. He's Professor Gu Bochang, PhD, a professor of demography in Renmin University, China. Professor Gu received his BA in philosophy in Peking University in 1968, and then ML in international problems in Peking University in 1981, MA in 1984, and PhD in 1986 in sociology and demography at the University of Texas at Austin, United States of America. So Professor Gu has been involved in numerous research projects in China. So today, Professor Gu will talk about family planning program under low fertility in China. So Professor Gu, the time is yours for 25 minutes from now.
Thank you, moderator. It's my great honor to speak with you. Can I have my?
Yes, you may start.
Yeah, it's my great honor to discuss with you about the family planning program and the low fertility with China as a case to illustrate. Next. Yeah, as you see, I want to show you as a background, China experienced in the second half of the last century, the typical demographic transition with mortality decline first, followed by acceleration of population growth until the decline of birth rate. So in the new century, China entered into a situation with low birth rate, low death rate, and low growth rate. This shows you the birth and the fertility level in China over the period. As you can see, in the 1970s, the 60s, China, on average, the to have 5 or 6 children per woman, and the annual births will be around the 30 million, and now declined to about the level very low below replacement. And the number of births also declined half of that. With births at the level more than 20 million, with the growth at the level more than 2% per year, and TFR at the level 5-6 children per woman, and the Chinese government responded to the rapid population growth, initiate the nationwide family planning program in the 1970s. This is not unusual, as you can see from the Warren Robinson and John Ross edited book published by the World Bank, The Global Family Planning Revolution, which showed you how the family planning program were initiated in these less developed countries over that period, including one chapter about the case of Indonesia. China implemented a fertility policy as a parent-specific, so-called one-child policy, which means one child per couple, and one-half children policy, which means the first child is a girl to have a second child, and two children policy, which means 2 children per couple, and a 3 children policy, which means 3 children per couple. And also correspondingly a parent-specific contraceptive policy, which means IUD insertion after the delivery of a first birth, and to have a sterilization operation after the second birth. This map shows you how the policy required fertility varies over the country, with the lighter the color, the lower the fertility required by the policy as the target. Since particularly over the new century, the Chinese census repeatedly reported the fertility level very low. For example, by the 2000 census at the level 1.22, by 2010 at the level 1.18, and by 2015 the mini census at the level 1.05, which creates a big debate about what is the real fertility level in China. All kinds of methods are applied to adjust the fertility level with a variety of data sets. The adjusted fertility level, as you see from the table, from the chart, is much higher than originally reported from census, often more than 50% higher. But still, the adjusted fertility far below replacement. And moreover, the adjusted fertility also show the same similar downward trend of fertility in China. And we need to answer why it's so low. As you all know, the RCPD held in Cairo in 1994, China as a country actively participated in the RCPD, and at the conference adopted the public program of action, emphasized reproductive health and rights. China responded to it to implement program action in China's context. The government immediately started to call for two reorientations of its family planning program in terms of guiding ideology and implementation approach, from demographer-driven to client-centered, from pilot experience first to nationwide scaling up. The quality care experiment initiated in China, the concept of quality care gradually accepted in these experiment areas, and the 6 elements of quality of care posted as guidelines for the service provision at the service station. The birth quota was abandoned, the birth permit removed, informed choice of contraceptive introduced, as this discussed in recent review of RCPD plus 25 in China. Moreover, many people involved in this experiment feel this is their most significant experience with their life career with the family planning program. A collection of the personal stories recently published. The book called Efforts in Memory, Quality of Care Initiative in China, Family Planning. This initiative was also acknowledged as one of the best practice of RCPD by PPD, UNFPA, and the UNDP publication. It says China case study is in many ways an illustration of the basic need to strengthen the quality of care in family planning services as called for in the program of action of the RCPD. More recently, the Chinese government decided to relax its fertility policy. In November 2013, it decided to allow the couple, one of them as a single child, to have a second child. And following in October 2015, allow all the couples to have 2 children. This is officially ending of the 30 years long one-child policy in China. Nevertheless, as we discussed earlier, the backbone of family planning program is demographic concern. Many in China will consider family planning program equivalent to birth restriction, equivalent to one-child policy. Once one-child policy is terminated, fertility policy is relaxed. One view is it's no longer the family planning is needed, should be terminated. On the other hand, another view would argue the family planning program should be strengthened entirely toward RCPD principles. In fact, when we look at the situation of reproductive health and the low fertility, you will see more people, these before or out of marriage, the period becomes longer. And with low fertility, the period of childbearing becomes shortened. And meanwhile, the period for contraception becomes much longer. And also much longer period beyond menopause. For example, for these people before marriage or out of marriage, they have a longer exposure to unprepared sex. It tends to increase this unintended pregnancy and increase of induced abortion due to lack of access, the knowledge, access, and services. This photo is appeared in a few days ago. The New York Times, its title say, "Today's face of abortion in China is a young unmarried woman." Abortion is harmful to women either physiologically or psychologically. But as you see from the table, in 2000, this abortion in China is around 6 million. But after relaxation of fertility policy in 2013, the number of abortions increased to more than 9 million. It's an increase of 1/3. Why abortion increased so much? One explanation is the merging of MCS system with the family planning program. But we will argue, since policy has been relaxed, it should be less due to policy violation or sex preference selection. It's more like it's due to unprepared sex among adolescents unmarried and contraceptive failure among the married. This shows you the abortion situation over the period since 1971 and the recent increase of abortion close to 10,000, which is very much toward the highest level in the history in China. Both the abortion rate and abortion ratio show an upward increase in recent years. We would argue induced abortions indicate unintended, unplanned pregnancy, unmet needs for contraceptives, unfulfilled reproductive health and reproductive rights, and absence of family planning services. Because of the childbearing period shortened and the contraception period become longer, the contraceptive failure is the major cause of abortion among married. It suggests prevention of unwanted pregnancy and childbearing. Another issue is IUD withdrawal at the menopause age. As we said, many people use IUD as the contraceptives during the fertility decline period. It is estimated 6.7 million women need to have their IUD be taken off, and 26 million to come in next 10 years. As recently, John Bongartz and John Castan argue in a paper, as fertility transition progresses, the exercise of fertility control and the risk of unintended fertility both increase. The proportion of pregnancies unplanned is highest in society with the lowest desired family size. Family planning program and the locally showed us the demand for family planning service become much diversified rather than used to be only for reduction of births. Family planning program is even more needed than before. Family planning program should not be abandoned, therefore, but strengthened to meet the varied needs of the people. We need a fully client-centered and service-oriented program. We can finally conclude comprehensive implementation of family planning program in terms of reproductive health and reproductive rights as stimulated in the program of action RCPD and SDGs. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gu, for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Gu already highlighted China's experience in family planning under the low fertility. He said that for a long time in China, the driving force behind family planning program has been demographic concerns, just like Indonesia at the moment. And then the family planning program in China has evolved during the 35 years time since one-child policy. And as a result, the TFR in China is low. And then what's next? Professor Gu argued that after the termination of one China policy, there's a need for more education among the young people about reproductive health and family planning to minimize the negative access such as abortion. So family planning is proved to be an important program after all to be implemented in our society. So thank you for your presentation. So next we have our Q&A session. After we hear from many prominent speakers, it is now the time for us to moving on to our Q&A session. However, before we start our Q&A sessions, I would like to inform you that there's a good news, of course, from the community that we have more than 800 participants from around the world now watching us via YouTube and also joining us on the webinar today. So this is also proof that family planning is a very important issue among us at the moment. So ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to moving on to our Q&A session. We are very glad to be joined by two discussants today. So I will allow each discussants to give your comments for 10 minutes each. So for the first opportunity, I will give to Professor Aris Ananta, PhD, the President of ASEAN Population Association. So before I let you talk, I will introduce you first. Professor Aris Ananta is currently the President of Asian Population Association. He is professor at the Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Indonesia, adjunct researcher at Demographic Institute of the Faculty of Economic and Businesses, and visiting professor at Center for Advanced Research, University Brunei Darussalam. He is an economist demographer with a multidisciplinary perspective, having a lot of international publications. So your time is 10 minutes from now.
Hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you, BKKBN, for conducting this webinar. It's very good webinar. We have different perspectives today from experience of Indonesia, and then we have the experience from Philippines, which has relatively high fertility rate, and then we have presentation from China with a low fertility rate, very low fertility rate. One important conclusion, I think, we can learn from China, that low fertility doesn't mean that we don't need family planning services. Family planning services are needed even in low fertility, and it should even be strengthened. The target is no longer fertility reduction, but reproductive health and reproductive rights. I think this is a very good conclusion from my friend, Professor Paul Changgu. And I think we from all over the world can learn about that, and doesn't mean that when we go to low fertility, then we abandon family planning service. Instead of abandoning, we have to strengthen family planning services. But the orientation is different, not reducing fertility, but improving reproductive health and reproductive rights. Second is that I like to mention that we are moving toward digitalization revolution, digital revolution, and second demographic revolution. The first demographic revolution is indicated by declining fertility and mortality of rapid decline. The rapid decline of fertility and mortality, as all of us know, has a lot of social, economic, and political implication. Now we are moving to the second demographic transition, second demographic revolution, which will be indicated by a very fast change in mobility pattern. Migration will no longer be important in the world because there will be declining in migration, but there will be rising short-term population mobility, circulation, seasonal mobility, and what we call in Indonesia wirawiri. Wirawiri is short-term population mobility without any predictable pattern, without any regular pattern. But this short-term mobility has a lot of social, economic, and political implication, including how to provide contraceptive services for the people. The second important pattern in the second demographic revolution is the emergence of virtual mobility. That's what I call going nowhere but being everywhere. Like all of us here, we are all over the world, but we could watch this webinar without having to go to Jakarta. I'm in Brunei now, but I could go everywhere. So this second demographic revolution has to be anticipated. And my question to all the speakers is that how do we anticipate the second demographic revolution, and what program and how could we utilize second demographic revolution to answer all our questions? I will share a more specific question for each speaker. First question I have for Professor Rizal Damanik. Yeah, just what I mentioned before, mobility revolution and digitalization. I think it has been a very clear and important presentation. My question actually is, with the rising mobility of Indonesia population, how does the BKKBN programs adapt to the frequently changing places of Indonesia population? Because Indonesia population will move around frequently and unexpectedly. How can we provide services for reproductive health with this wirawiri of the clients? Is there any mobile services where the data of the client can be accessed in all services areas? When wirawiri, the short-term mobility is moving with unpredictable random pattern, it is usually short-term movement. With the increasing digitalization, I have a question. How does BKKBN plan to utilize this new technology? For Dr. Lilis, Heri, Cicih, I think you have a very good policy implication. The policy implication you mentioned are very well taken for Indonesia, and it has been an important presentation. You mentioned the following policy implication from the demographic bonus. First, mention that we need to increase education, health, and technology. You mentioned that we need to fulfill older person's right to have decent life. You mentioned that we need to strengthen family resilience to protect older persons from discrimination, abuse, neglect, and violence. And you mentioned that we need to enhance family and community empowerment. This is all a very good policy, and then I think we have to listen to this policy implication. We have to do this. The relevance of the policies, for me, the recommended policies are very relevant for Indonesia, regardless of whether Indonesia, province, and other regions have demographic bonus. When we have demographic bonus, the policy are very relevant. When we have closed the demographic bonus, it's still relevant. When we never have demographic bonus, like Nusa Tenggara Timur, East Nusa Tenggara, and two other provinces mentioned, and even some district which will never have demographic bonus, the relevance Ibu Lilis mentioned are still very relevant. How about for province or district which have already closed the demographic bonus? Some province will close the demographic bonus soon. The question is whether the policy are still relevant. The answer is yes. So the lesson here is that the policy implication, the policy mentioned by Ibu Lilis are relevant. The good news is that relevant for either province or districts which have demographic bonus, or for province and district who have closed the demographic bonus, or province or districts which will never have the demographic bonus. So this is the good news, is that because the policies are relevant for all kind of bonus. I also agree with Dr. Lilis that many people are still confused with the concept of demographic bonus. I also fully agree that we still have to work hard to get the bonus. Bu Lilis mentioned that to get the demographic bonus, we have to work hard to achieve the bonus. That means the bonus has not already existed. The bonus is not there. It's not been on the table. It's not ready to pick. So actually the bonus in the concept of demographic bonus is actually only an iming-iming. Iming-iming is the Indonesian word. The closest English translation is lure or enticement. So demographic bonus is an iming-iming or lure or enticement for excellent long hard work and relevant policies. The bonus is not there, the dividend is not there. Therefore, the concept of demographic bonus can be misunderstood by the non-demographers and policymakers because of this meaning of bonus. That's why I would rather call it demographic iming-iming, so that people can have more realistic expectation from demographic bonus. From my observation, some people have a very high expectation of demographic bonus, but actually it is only a demographic iming-iming. For Dr. Juan Antonio Perez III, thank you very much for your nice presentation. I really like your presentation. Congratulations for the presentation on sexual and reproductive health among Filipino adolescents. This is a timely topic, I think, during the globalization and digitalization. My question is that how does the society see adolescent sexual and reproductive health? How is the norm of the society? Is it special in Philippines that you could talk it freely? Is there any impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the adolescent behavior? I think you mentioned a little bit on this one. And how does the government utilize digital technology to reduce adolescent pregnancy? And you mentioned also that parents are very important, the first source to educate their adolescent. My question is, how prepared and knowledgeable are the parents to educate their adolescent in sexual and reproductive behavior? Another question is about peer pressure. What are the role of friends and digital technology in influencing sexual and reproductive behavior of the adolescent? And how can we use friends and digital technology to improve sexual and reproductive behavior of the adolescent? And this is about adolescent reproductive health again. I read that several registration is able to record adolescent pregnancy in Philippines. My question is that, are the adolescents or their parents willingly reporting the pregnancy? Because this is civil registration and they have to report it openly. Are they willing to say it in Philippines? Next question is, when the adolescents have babies, who take care of the babies? In terms of finance and in terms of caregiving, is their parent, grandparent, relative, or professional caregiver, and who support them financially? And the last question is, how is the adoption system in the Philippines? How is the norm in the society toward adopted children and children from adolescent? Can they welcome them or they don't like them? For Prof. Bocanggu, thank you for showing challenge and opportunity in low fertility countries, especially when you mentioned that in China now, family planning is even more needed because the demand for contraceptive is getting more higher as people want to have lower children. So the demand for contraceptive is even strengthened. So we need more family planning program. And I have a question for you, Prof. Gu. Some policymakers and scholars are concerned that aging population results in rising burden for the working age population. However, I observe that China has embarked on a journey utilizing high technology, especially the digital technology, including robotic technology. I heard that the use of technology will much compensate the declining percentage of China working age population. That seems that the declining percentage of working population in China is something that we don't have to worry, because in China, technology can much compensate the decline of working age population. So China seems to have broken the view that aging is frightening. What do you think, Prof. Gu? Use of digitalization technology. Yeah, I asked this question because China has been using a lot of technology and digitalization technology. How does China use digitalization technology to provide contraceptive and sexual reproductive services? From the presentation, my next question, the Western China still has fertility rate above replacement rate with TFR between 2 and 3.5. My question is, does China also stop one-child policy in this region? Because you said that you relaxed one-child policy, but in some part, especially in the Western part, fertility is still about 2 and 3.5. My last question, I think you already answered. Does China have any target of TFR? I think your answer is no target now. Is that correct? And that's all for my comment and question. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po for my friends from Philippines, and xie from my friend from China, and terima kasih for all friends from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your comments and also questions. So the next discussant is Professor Peter McDonald, PhD. Professor Peter McDonald is Emeritus Professor of Demography of the Australian National University and an honorary professor of the University of Melbourne. He is a chief investigator of the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence in Population Aging Research. He was president of the International Union for the Scientific Study of Population for the years 2010 until 2013. So without further ado, your time is 10 minutes from now.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one slide, and the organizer can put that up now if you like. I'm going to start with Ibu Lilis, and in this, I'm going to talk about the demographic bonus and its meaning, or demographic dividend. One assumption of the demographic, the standard dependency ratio, is that every dependent is equally dependent, and that is not the case. So this is a graph which is derived from national transfer accounts, and it shows the age-specific consumption, both public and private, combined, relative to consumption at age 40. So age 40 is set at 1, and looks at what's the relative consumption at other ages. And you can see that children cost a lot less than the ordinary adult costs. In older people in a more developing country situation cost about the same. But in a more advanced society where there are a lot of older age programs, older people cost a lot more than a person aged 40 as well. And among the older population, the young old do not cost nearly as much as the old. So if we're looking at a situation where, say, Indonesia is moving to a policy agenda where it provides support to the older population to a greater extent, and moving over time to a kind of the levels of support that Japan provides, then you're moving from a curve that looks like that in weighting terms to one that looks like the Japan one, from the Thailand one to the Japan one. And that has a big impact. What it means is that further reductions in fertility reduce the numbers of very young children, but that doesn't actually provide you with much great benefit because they don't cost much. And at the present time, the majority of the older population in Indonesia, 60 and over, are aged 60 to 69, and they're also not costing you very much. So that this leaves you in a kind of, there's no great benefit. The argument is that there's no great benefit in reducing the fertility rate to a much lower level. One argument might be, well, look at some of the countries like South Korea, their fertility rate dropped to a very low level and still is at a very low level. Is that a good thing to do because you've got lots fewer children, you don't have quite so many children to support. But in the longer term, what that means is that you have a huge, huge age problem out in the future. So it is better not to let the fertility rate drop below replacement by very much. That's a message. Now, it's also important to realize that the idea of the demographic dividend was based heavily upon the Asian tigers and their success when they reduced their fertility rates. But when at the time that South Korea's fertility was the same level as Indonesia's is now, South Korea's education levels were much higher than Indonesia's are now, and also GDP per capita was much higher than it is in Indonesia now. So Indonesia actually faces a much bigger challenge than those Asian tiger countries did. It won't be easily replicated. Now, I've just on final comment on Lilis's paper. I've done research in villages in Indonesia at the village level, and it's really, really striking that the big issue for older people in Indonesia is access to quality healthcare. And I'll just leave you with that message. But Rizal's paper, there is, given the policies in respect of age at marriage and policies in respect of continuing education and so on, there's quite a likelihood that Indonesia's fertility rate will fall in the intermediate term because of the delay of births, what we call a tempo effect. Births are pushed out into the future, but in the short term, there are fewer births. That needs to be considered if you see this happening, that the birth rate is falling to a very low level, it might come back up again later on because of that tempo effect. But higher human capital, higher participation in the labour force by women will be highly beneficial to GDP per capita growth in Indonesia and development more generally. So there is really a strong need to focus on women's education, and that means tertiary education, not just school education. Female labour force participation rates in Indonesia remain quite low, relatively, and so there'll be great advantage to the economy and to society if they were increased. And in cities, it's evident that it's very difficult for poorer women to go out and work because they have nobody to look after their children. And so some kind of a program of childcare would be good in cities like Jakarta. I'm moving on then to China and Gu Baochang's paper. And so China's taking the right approach, as Aris also said, in providing high quality reproductive health services for all. And they are providing it to single people as well. And the focus has shifted to client-centered programs rather than demographic outcomes. But I think one of my view about China is that there may be an issue about the desire to have more than one child. And the reason for that is that we've had 35 years, we had for 35 years of a one-child policy, and that has a lasting impact on the way that people value children. You know, that if you're going to message hammer it into you for 35 years that children are a bad thing, it's actually not all that easy to move away from that. Second, there's the massive floating population who usually do not live with their child. Their child's back in the village, they're in the city. We've had quite a long period in which the girl child has been of lower value than the boy child. And I think that China probably faces some values issues, I think, in respect of children, if it's wanting its fertility rate to rise again. Finally, to Dr. Perez, just everything great. I agree with, of course, with what he said. It's on general gender equity. It is really important. You know, not specific programs, but that all girls. The most important way that you can combat adolescent pregnancies is by giving girls a sense of empowerment, a sense of future achievement, and that very often comes from education. That if you're educated, here, well, sexual education is important, but I'm talking about education in general terms. Very, very important to follow that up. And a good example of that is what's happened in the United States in recent times among minorities who had very, very high adolescent fertility rates quite recently, but they've fallen like a stone. And they've fallen like a stone because of these aspects, because of an impact of education, that the education levels, they're staying in school longer, and they now have more of a sense of achievement. They get some sex education, not so good in the US, but also access to contraception. So I think that general focus on gender equity is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Peter McDonald, for your comments. So before I give the opportunity for our speakers to answer the questions and from our discussions, I would like to forward the questions from our participants that has been raised in the Q&A box. The first question is for Professor Rizal Damanik. What is the justification for selecting several provinces as a focus area for SSTC development, and how to measure the effectiveness of South-South cooperation? In addition to that, what is your opinion about the habits of early marriage in Indonesia? And then the next question is for Dr. Perez. Dr. Perez, you have a question. How about right-based family planning integrated in the Philippines? Can you explain more about that? And then the next question is for Professor Gu. How teen generation see about marriage, having children, and the children policy in China? How to minimize repeat pregnancy in young people during the pandemic? So for this, answering opportunity, I would like to give Professor Rizal Damanik the first opportunity to answer the questions.
So thank you, Valerina, and thank you for all the questions raised to my presentation. So I have read here some questions as mentioned by the moderator at the beginning of this session webinar, that the chat room is for answering question. So first, I'd like to comment on the question raised by Professor Aris Ananta. So Prof. Aris, it is interesting to know Wirawiri terms to represents those who are actively moving from one place to another for a short period of time. In terms of population policy, the framework for this issue remains premature as it is yet integrated in the scale to involve related districts and provinces. Region-based development is already established and need further studies to recommend and construct an appropriate policies. Cooperating, in my opinion, between cities in terms of data collection of Warawiri by each city, I think can be made. And in the long run, in my opinion, equitable development is the right solution. And the government is currently striving for equitable development in various sectors throughout Indonesia. Regarding the optimization of technology, yes, BKKBN is already aware about the current demand and how the program should adapt the situation. Current pandemic COVID-19 has given us more opportunity to innovate and engage more Internet of Things in BKKBN business process. Yeah, BKKBN use this advances technology for education and training in an effort to increase the capacity building of our staff and also the family planning field workers. Also, we use this advance of technology in the supply chain for contraceptives devices. The challenge, however, remains in terms of the accessibility and the habituation of the community and program managers to be more involved in the IT platform. For Fadil from University of Gajah Mada and Farid from Ministry of Health. So the COVID pandemic was recent and is still happening today. No one has ever predicted the occurrence of COVID, and there is no certainty when this COVID will end. Yet life is still and goes on. And to respond to the COVID situation, BKKBN has made several adjustments. For example, by activating our family planning field workers to not only providing counseling, but also helping to distribute contraceptive tools and medicines needed by the community. In addition, BKKBN also provide assistance to midwives in the form of personal protection tools so that they can continue to serve people who want to use or to have contraception services. Of course, all of these activities must follow the COVID protocol. Simon from University Science Malaysia. Yes, as I said earlier in my presentation, that Indonesia, in this case, the BKKBN already has a medium and long-term development plan. And by using these plans, BKKBN runs its program. A student from Madura, Olil Ahkam, asking about the marrying a child age. So marrying at the child age is not good and is not recommended, Ulil. This is because getting married at the child age will affect the reproductive health of the mother and also inhibit the growth of the baby in the womb. This is due to the fact that at the age of child, the mother is still undergoing a growth process, so it requires energy and nutrition. So if this woman is pregnant, the available energy and nutrients will also be used for fetal growth, so that the consequences will be detrimental to both the mother and the child. Another question raised by King San about the effect of pandemic in the economic sector. The economic sector is one of the sectors that is significantly affected. Not only domestic, but also foreign trade has almost stopped. Transportation, which is a significant factor in the economy, is also affected. However, King San, behind a problem, there must be a wisdom. Nowadays, many people are creative, including in the economic sector. For example, by using online shopping, and for those who live in complexes or housing, they do food, vegetable, or fruit business among fellow residents. These are only some of solutions for the micro business. So in short, we must be optimism to overcome during this pandemic period. This is all that I can respond to the the other one is about the selection of 8 provinces as Center for International Training. So the selection of 8 provinces as Center for International Training is basically based on some consideration. First, the best practices documented from each topic in the provinces that is worthwhile considered to be best practices. We can observe the changes made by the program. Second, particularly for the topic family data collection, we consider 2 provinces, Jakarta and Central Java, due to a distinct approach of the design and the implementation of family data collection. Even though, of course, the objective remains the same. And third, for a comprehensive family planning training for medical doctors that is located in Sarjito Hospital in Yogyakarta, because for the last 5 years implementation, it has showed the success of family planning service training. The initiative is currently reviewed with collaboration with UNFPA, while the expansion of similar learning center will be in Universitas Indonesia in Jakarta. It's in the process of preparation under the partnership between BKKBN and University of Indonesia. It is our hope that BKKBN will launch the opening of the hospital as Center of Excellence for Family Planning Service Training this year. So this is a question raised by Aris from Bapenas, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Valerina.
Thank you, Professor Rizal Damanik, for answering the questions. The next opportunity I will give to Dr. Perez. Your time is 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Valerina. And thank you for all the questions from the audience and the reactors. No? First, from the audience, to Pa Farid, who asked about the rights-based family planning program in the Philippines. Our responsible parenthood reproductive law, health law, passed in 2012, requires that our program be voluntary, based on informed consent, and is very conscious of the rights of the population and the sexual reproductive rights also of the population. This, in a way, has also been the way we deliver family planning program services in the country. In a way, this together with the many misconceptions on modern family planning methods, to some extent have affected the way we deliver services. Our total fertility rate, much like Indonesia, has been declining, but not at the rate that we wish. But we are confident that our rights-based approach is the correct way and is completely based on the Program of Action, ICPD. I'd like also to respond to the questions raised by Professor Aris. Uh, and uh, First of all, there is a social stigma attached to adolescent sexuality and reproductive health in the Philippines, particularly when it comes to very young adolescents, pregnancies, early pregnancies. And that is something that makes adolescents sometimes hide the pregnancy, so the parents only find out that their child is pregnant when the child is about to deliver. This happens in many cases that we have seen. However, our legislation has recently, our legislators recently passed a law, uh, a bill, but not yet a law, to end child marriage and forced marriage in the country. And we hope that that will really remove or strengthen the policy environment when it comes to very young adolescents and adolescent sexual reproductive health as well. Now, the pandemic, I believe, will have an impact on adolescent pregnancies, but it might be a bit more benign than one would expect. What we are worried about is gender-based violence. As I cited, the adolescent pregnancies have the highest levels of violence during pregnancy. So we are more afraid for gender-based violence during this period. We are taking advantage, in a way, of the lockdowns to expand our digital presence when it comes to family planning, and particularly for adolescent health. We are continuing to expand our presence in the digital world. And we are really improving, I hope, the way we reach adolescents through the digital means. When it comes to parents, they have a key role, but I'm unhappy to tell you that they are less prepared. Parents are somewhat less prepared, and they say this to us. And so some of our programs are actively going to focus on engaging parents in adolescent health and development, because they say they are least prepared. And peer pressure is quite strong. Therefore, with the lack of parental support, peer pressure becomes more dominant. And to counter that, we are trying to expand the number of peer educators to address to counter the unfiltered peer pressure and the influence of internet. Our civil registration, Paaris, we believe is quite good, probably with, and we are going to use civil registration more frequently in our annual monitoring of adolescent pregnancies. So we continue to work on that as one of the means uh, to get information, but we do have data privacy laws. So this is more in the aggregate. We use civil registry in the aggregate rather than for individual um, identification of need. Caregiving is primarily taken on by nuclear family. Um, so that since marriage is not allowed below 18, many of adolescent mothers are without partners, so they have to work to rely on their nuclear family for caregiving, and that really increases the burden for families that are already poor, having to deal with adolescent pregnancies. And finally, adoption is an option, but not very, not there is it's not that popular in the Philippines. But there are adoptions that are being done. But generally, adolescents keep their children and with their parents as their caregivers. So grandparents are increasingly under pressure to provide care. And for Professor McDonald, I agree with your observation that gender equity needs to be considered more in our program. Actually, that is where we are reaching out to the community uh, and to look at adolescent mothers, asking local governments and the community to look at them as people needing more social protection, more support as we deal with 60,000 adolescent pregnancies among minors every year. I hope I have answered most questions. Thank you very much, Valerina. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. Now I'm going to give the opportunity to Professor Gu to answer the questions. Professor Gu, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes, thanks for the comments from Eris, Peter, and also audience. My understanding, the theme of this webinar is about family planning program in Asia countries. So I didn't directly discuss about the issues such as aging, IT, which are very relevant, in fact. In fact, I have a paper in the recent, the Christopher Kiyomoto and Kevin Jones edited the book, in which I have a chapter to discuss about the population aging issues compared with the situation in Indonesia and India. Yes, the one-child policy is terminated nationwide, no longer anywhere in the country existed. But ironically, once the one-child policy was terminated, the response from people, particularly from young people, was very light. So the birth rate or number of births did not increase much and lasted longer. In fact, come down now again. So that's the big issue now. It's debating in China whether should the government adopt some policy to encourage people to have children. That is still debating in China. It's Peter said right. For so long in a so restricted policy environment, people tend to get used to have less children. So to set up or restore a children-friendly society is a huge challenge, particularly among the young generation. They tend to marry late. They tend to not have children immediately after marriage. They even tend to have less children. This is something called the second demographic transition. These more or less are occurring in China.
I think Professor Gu is having technical difficulties. We may contact him later after he is connected to the internet again. So in the meantime, I would like to raise more questions for Pak Rizal Damanik because we still have around 10 minutes for the Q&A session. So maybe this is going to be very quick. Oh, okay. So before I raise the question to Professor Damanik, I would like to give the time to Professor Gu again. Would you like to complete your answer, Professor Gu?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just want to say that there are many new patterns of the people's behavior in terms of a marriage or childbearing to come up, particularly among the young generations. We are still working on that to see what will happen. Even not only the fertility diet or fertility behavior, but also the marriage desire and marriage behavior will change much too. So there are a lot that we have to do. And meanwhile, family planning, how can that meet the people's needs will be a huge challenge as well.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Gu, for answering the questions. Now I'm going to raise the questions for Professor Rizal Damanik. It is a question from Morocco. What health services or medical coverage are available to teenagers in Indonesia and China too? What is the legal age of marriage in Indonesia? And are family planning services offered even to unmarried people? So Professor Rizal Damanik, please answer the questions.
Thank you. For the legal age for getting married in Indonesia is 21 years old for girls and 25 years old for a boy to get married. It is based for the BKKBN rules. And for the contraception tools in Indonesia is distributed only for a couple, not for teenagers or not married people here. Thank you.
Okay, so we still have time. There's a question for Professor Gu. Okay, is there any rejection from people in China to the one child per couple policy? And then how does the government persuade women to get sterilization after second birth? Is there any specific policy?
Yes, since it was in the past that when the people were asked to have only one child, there were restrictions, resistance, particularly in rural areas. They want to have more than one child, for example. Or if the first is a boy, they still want to have a second, which may be a daughter, if they don't have an opportunity to have a second child. Yes, so there were difficulties with that policy. And nevertheless, the fertility declined to below the replacement for so long in China since the early 1990s. Government finally decided to relax the policy to allow people to have more than one child. But as I said, very interesting that we will see people are happy to have 2 children since it now become allowed to do so. But the generation change, that these people born in the 1990s or even after the 2000, they are different from their early generation, their parents' generations. They just don't want to have more babies or don't want to have babies so early. So that's why the birth rate still low, the fertility rate is still low, the number of births didn't come up much. That come out with another debate in China, what to do if we should adopt some incentive policies for people to have the second child, and but the policy as such implemented in the European or Australia these developed countries was not very encouraging once this policy implemented. So still debating in China what to do. And also if the fertility cannot come up much, the aging will be more serious as well. Okay. We have a lot of new issues to address.
Okay. We still have around 5 minutes time. So there's a question for Professor Agu again. So, okay. How COVID-19 is threatening young women's rights and how the one-child policy in China could go through year after year?
I didn't get.
Okay. The first question is how COVID-19 is threatening young women's SRH rights, and then how the one-child policy in China could go through year after year.
I said it's no longer one-child policy in China. What we face is a very low fertility. They may not be able to come up even with the relaxing of fertility policy from China, from the government. Can you hear me?
Can you repeat that again, please?
The design for children. I mean, you know, for the younger generations, the desire for children become very weak. Even for some young generation, young females with a higher education, marriages become questionable. So there are many new issues which are so different from what we used to face during the fertility reduction period. This also will be a challenge to the family planning program in the future as well.
Okay. Well, at the moment, we have the questions all collected by committee have been forwarded to the speakers and discussion. So thank you very much for answering the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, from our discussion, I would like to highlight three things. The first one is family planning program is needed in all demography, including low fertility demography. And then the second one is we learned from Indonesia, Philippines, and China that there is a need for more reproductive health education for adolescents and also other reproductive health actors. And then therefore, in the long run, there may be a need of technological use in raising awareness and providing service in family planning involving family, government, and non-government actors. Then the last thing is since the world population will grow due to life expectancy increase, there is a need for countries around the globe, especially under the South-South Triangular Cooperation, to cooperate and collaborate more in creating innovation and implementation for family planning program in the future. So thank you very much to our speakers, discussants, and all participants for joining this webinar via Zoom and also YouTube. We hope that the discussion gives you a new perspective and insightful information about family planning and family development in Asian countries. Finally, on behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you for your attention and participation. I am Valerina Daniel. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace, prosperity, and health be with us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerina. It's a fruitful discussion and very interesting to know and understand the variety setting of family planning and family development from Asian countries. The reviews from the discussants are valuable for us to better understand the environments of the programs And questions and answer sessions also give us more comprehensive situation that is context specific. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, we understand that under social cooperation framework, knowledge sharing is very essential. Since the Global Assessments in Population Award was awarded to former President Suharto by the Population Institute in December 1988, Indonesia has embarked on a long continuous journey of population management that has lasted until today. We kindly invite you to explore more our current population, family planning, and family development program through our new website with this following information. Now I invite His Excellency Mr. Nico Barito, the envoy of President Seychelles for ASEAN, to share his experience of the partnership between BKKBN and Seychelles in the area of family development. Time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Irma. Good evening, Chairman of BKKBN, Deputies and respective Directors, Excellencies Ambassadors, Member of Partners in Population Development that promote South-South cooperation, its representatives and senior officials. My friend, Dr. Juan Perez, I saw you there. How are you? My friend also from Pulin, how are you? Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Well, on behalf of the government of Seychelles, I would like to thank the organizer. Special thanks for Ibu Irma to invite me to take part in this webinar on the family planning and family development in the Asian countries under the framework of South-South cooperations. As you may know, that Seychelles is an official partner of BKKBN. Our family affairs ministers and BKKBN entered into an agreement at 2019, a cooperation partnerships. And we really admire to work closely with BKKBN and to learn so much from BKKBN. One of the highlights that we have brought is about September 2017, around that time, 23 of our Seychelles Young Leaders programs have been given the opportunity for a 3 weeks interactive training at BKKBN in Jakarta, exchange of best practice and observations on family development and planning, including the welfare of family, elder and youth at Jakarta. Following that, BKKBN also have been visiting Seychelles. Professor Rizal Damanik lead delegations with directors and have high-level meeting with the Vice President of Seychelles, during which we also try to identify a development of Center of Excellence of Family Welfare in Seychelles. Well, we have a reason to be creative. We have a reason to think about this because Seychelles, despite that we are a small country, we have a big ocean, 115 islands in the Indian Oceans, up-end economy, good connectivities. We thought whatever that we can work in the South-South cooperation with Indonesia especially is something that we want to share also with our friends from Africa. So the creative of this Center of Excellence, we hope, can transform more of the best practices of BKKBN to friends in Africa, also strengthen the relationship between Indonesia and Africa. Different countries have different problems in population issues. In Seychelles, we don't have problem about birth control, but we have other issues. We have issues about behavior changes in the family. We have issues about elders. We have issues also about youth. And I believe through BKKBN, we try to apply few of the good programs of the elders, which BKBN calls Lansia, and then BKKBN also have good program for youth, which is genre, and the adoptions of the correlations between family programs, between parents, families, children's, which try to bring the family closer and avoid the distances in the family. This is some of the good things that we have learned. And as you all know that BKKBN is a long-standing organization. It has 62 years of experience in Indonesia. Being a national board responsible for family planning in a big country like Indonesia, I believe that BKKBN have achieved an achievement of good result. Cohesive family planning program, parental, nutrition, and acquaintance of programs for elders and youth in the family welfare to sustain socio-economic development of Indonesia. That is the reason that I want to share the best practice of BKKBN to more countries in Africa, because we want to accelerate the South-South cooperation. We want to accelerate the good relationship between Indonesia and Africa. Recently, under the framework of our cooperation, Seychelles, as you know, come from a small country which have nature concern, environmental concern. We try to share with BKKBN an idea to initiate a healthy society and prosperous family. This program is aimed again for the family to understand about healthy living. In the wake of global issues on climate change, we want to educate the family to anticipate in the impact of household waste, to raise awareness of healthy and cleanliness in the family, its neighborhoods and its communities. I love this program because it's a bottoms-up character building to train the family, the youth and the elders to admire healthy and clean living family, society. It is a moral for a national character, a practice of family-based circular economy. For this reason, Seychelles is happy to embark on this pilot project, which is a family-center-based approach. I believe we all agree. Everything begins from the family as the smallest part of the country, of a nation. A quality social welfare of family, of no doubt, will contribute a lot to the national development. Finally, I congratulate BKKBN as representative of the partners in population and development that promote South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation in Indonesia for the successful delivering of this webinar on family planning and family development program in ASEAN countries. I call upon friends present to expand the opportunity of sharing the best experience to the other countries in the other part of the world, in Africa, to build a family welfare chain between Indonesia and Africa to accelerate people-to-people connectivity. And of course, finally, the economy development between Indonesia and Africa. I wish you all a very good well-being, stay healthy, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nico, for highlighting how the initiative inclusively embraced more participation of the community in the project and how the program designed to give more value added to the environment we live. Now, guests, ladies and gentlemen, in an attempt to provide strong evidence-based policy, BKKBN will be conducting family census next year to update our existing family data. It covers 81 million families in all 33 provinces, 514 districts, and involves 1.3 million trained cadres. This becomes one of our best topics offered for international training under South-South cooperation. I would like to invite you to see a video, which will be played shortly, that shows how the data are collected and used in the decision-making process by policymakers. So on behalf of BKKBN, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for all speakers, discussants, Mr. Nico, the moderator, and of course, all the participants of the webinar. It is a wonderful discussion, even we are still combating and tackling the impact of COVID-19. It shows that place and distance no longer prevent us from sharing knowledge. I might not have further conclusion as it is very clear and straightforward. I must thank PPD, Commission on Population and Development POPCOM Republics of Philippines, Johns Hopkins Center for Communication Program for their support. As our appreciation of your participation, please grab your e-certificate by filling the Google form. You will get your certificate written on your name automatically after completing the form. For all resource person, discussants, and moderator, we will send the e-certificate directly to your email. So planning is awesome. Wassalamualaikum, stay safe, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, is a vast, sprawling metropolis, home to over 10 million people of diverse ethnic group backgrounds from all over Indonesia. Located on the north coast of West Java, it is the nation's government, commerce, and cultural center. The population of Jakarta is made up of around 3 million family units. As the smallest unit in society, it is fundamental for the families in Jakarta to develop and maximize the potential of each member.
The Jakarta capital city government assert to strengthen the values of families through its first mission, which is to create a safe, healthy, educated, and cultured city by enhancing family values and providing creativity spaces through participatory, motivated, and civilized leadership. A demand for an integrated data about the families of Jakarta was called for to enable targeted multi-sectoral intervention. The initiative mandated under the Jakarta Governor Instruction Number 2, 2019, regarding synchronization and integration of one-stop service of family welfare that states that our agency is mandated to conduct an integrated family data collection.
In July 2019, Jakarta Capital City Government launched Cari Jakarta, an application designed to comprehensively collect detailed data about individuals, family, its residents, and its surroundings. The data collection is conducted once a year in collaboration with the Family Welfare and Empowerment Community of Jakarta Province through the Dasawisma volunteers. The Dasawisma volunteers are the frontliners in the communities. Each volunteer has a duty to collect data, motivate, and give information to between 10 to 20 households in their assigned area of the neighborhood. In accordance to Jakarta Governor Instruction Number 100/2019 about the integrated family data collection, more than 74,000 Dasawisma volunteers carried out the data collection using the Carik Jakarta application. The focus of this integrated family data collection is every family residing in Jakarta. Volunteers collect the data by visiting each family from door to door. There are 3 parts to the questionnaire, including data about the building they live in. The residents' data will be processed and analyzed in accordance to the information needed by the government. The main goal of integrated family data is to enable stakeholders to monitor and evaluate their programs' impact on the community they served, based on the most up-to-date data. The data can be used as evidence for decision-making on various issues, such as family planning program, health programs, infrastructure and transportation programs, and economy and welfare programs.
Adanya data keluarga terpadu ini mempermudah kami dalam mencari sasaran program yang dituju. Siapa saja yang belum ber-KB, keluarga mana saja yang masuk golongan prasejahtera dan perlu bantuan. Belakangan, kami juga memakai data terpadu ini untuk memetakan warga yang memiliki risiko tinggi terhadap COVID-19.
The integration of various key questions used for data collection at the family level has enabled Carik Jakarta data as a comprehensive data source. These comprehensive data sources can be used as basis for decision-making and program implementation by stakeholders in order to generate resilient families in the future.
Anak diperhatikan, mereka uang sekolah. Mau traveling ke tempat lihat lagu Abi. Gaya hidup hebat yang kekinian pastinya bukan tanpa beban. perhatikan, mereka pulang sekolah.